UNICEF is one of the leading organisations promoting the well-being and livelihoods of children worldwide. We're interested in poverty, we're interested in education, and we're interested in those policies, but we hadn't looked at what made a child a child.
The project started by my foundation really wanting to create a framework that would enable different partners from different environments to work together on the issue of human development. And so we developed that framework, which is anchored in our definition of well-being, which is realizing one's own unique potential through physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual development in relation to self, others, and the environment.
Core capacities as actions are really intended to activate the whole framework, which is a kind of conceptual model. And then we started working specifically with learning for well-being. And when you bring learning in, it's a process. And so that's when the core capacities came in, to make that learning as a process active.
UNICEF works a lot on life skills, mental health, well-being, and understanding children's core capacity speaks to so many of those things. It was just a perfect fit. Our job as a research institute was to bring this together, to hold the pen, to maintain the rigor in the research process all together. The most important findings of this first phase are essentially that these core capacities matter for many of the things we already want to achieve for children. Their education, their health, their socialization, and also that some of the things that we might take for granted in child development, that children are good listeners, or that they're good at asking questions, or they know how to relax and self-regulate, should not be taken for granted. If we work with those innate skills and protect and promote those innate skills, then we should see big benefits in our major efforts to improve their living conditions.
Oftentimes well-being is just kind of left up to the whim of the educational process. We teach all of these academic subjects and we just hope that this human development happens in a healthy way. Well, for the first time, we're not leaving that to hope. No longer is it an aspiration that we just hope that this happens at home or somewhere on the playground. We're actually pulling it into the classroom and saying, if you really want the kids to thrive later on in life, don't just teach them reading, writing, and math and science. Teach them the core capacities.
This research connects to the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child in a number of ways. The convention itself talks about children's evolving capacities, and so we need to understand about those evolving capacities and how they facilitate children's own expression and achievement of their rights. And one of the things we talk about when we list the type of well-being that we want to achieve for children is their spiritual well-being. We're trying to kick off a conversation to understand what's meant by spiritual well-being, because we've written it into the UNCRC and we've promised we're going to achieve it. And so we need to understand about it and try and promote it throughout childhood.
Spirituality for me is a dimension of perspective that is experienced as a connecting tissue of all things, all beings in the world. In this specific report, it's a connecting tissue of many other aspects, which we named physical, emotional, and mental. When we talk about the spiritual development, it's not necessarily synonymous to religion, but rather it's to a more holistic, more inclusive way of looking at human development. Spiritual development is more active and engaged the way of connecting with all other beings. It's a way of prepare you for life and for learning. The learning about who we are and how we relate to each other, that deep sense of community and the connection we share with each other.
When we look through the lens of science, we find that many of the character strengths and virtues, optimism, commitment, forgiveness, go hand in hand with a deep, strong personal spirituality. So much so that when we look at what comes first, we find very often that it is spirituality that predicts long-term optimism, long-term grit and fortitude. When a child has a broader range of understanding how in difficult situations, how in moments of trial, even trauma, he or she might engage, they become masters of their own destiny. They have far more say in the future that awaits them.
Working together with UNICEF and working together with the Fetzer Foundation is an honor, because in order to shift attitude, you need to really have a critical mass of partners to achieve that. The research is a departing point. It allows us to take seriously our reorientation into supporting what is there and protecting those core capacities.
I hope the research is going to start up a deeper conversation of what we should know about very basic human skills and begin to recognize them in everything that we do with children.
As I speak to other educational leaders in the United States and abroad, they're very excited to finally have a roadmap, a global scientific body of evidence that directly links specific capacities to their impact on human well-being.
Adults need to take responsibility for creating environments in which children don't lose their relationship and their access to core capacities, and in fact move in the other direction of expanding them, be more conscious about them. For me, the core capacities are acts of love. They're really ways in which I demonstrate that I care about you and I care about myself. That means that they help me relate more to you and relate more to myself and relate to everything that's around me. I think it's important that people understand their own capacities and how they learn and how they lead and what they need to feel comfortable, what they need to feel safe, what they need to feel connected to other people. And that's the important thing, is that they be able to do that for themselves. And that's one of the things Core Capacities does.